Board number 8. My name is Charles Merdler. I chair the committee. In a moment, where's Julie?
You had to go out.
Coming here in a few moments is the chair of the board, Julie Reyes. All right, to my right is the co-chair of this board, of this committee, Martin Wolpoff. The first item is a roll call of committee members. By the way, Farrah, who's taking the minutes? Oh, you wonderful person, you. Shall we do the roll call, please? Oh, all right, I'll do it. All right.
Yeah.
Merdler present, Wolpoff present, Sylvia. Here. Bob Bender. Here. Carol Blake.
Here.
Lee Chung.
Here.
Nick Fazio. David Gelman.
Present.
Omar Murray. Not present. Daniel Rowan. Here. Jessica Sosa.
Here.
Thank goodness. And Laura Spalter, the former chair of the board. Okay. The next issue is introduction of guests. I'm not sure. I failed to again introduce the chair of the board, Julie Reyes, who is sitting at the front of the table. Don't know, are there any electeds on the screen? I haven't.
I think I saw Randy Martin.
Randy's there.
Oh, Bob, wait.
Just saying hi.
What's that? Oh,
Randy.
Randy Martos, representing Assembly Member Jeffrey Dinowitz. Do you have something you wish to say, Julie? Julie.
No, just
Randy.
good evening. I'm here to listen.
Hey,
Thank you.
no other electeds. There is a distinguished guest here, probably the most knowledgeable person on affordable housing and other housing in the city of New York, Ted Weinstein of HPD.
Thank you, Chuck.
Welcome, Ted.
Thank you.
And approval of the committee minutes of September 2023. Any corrections, comments, or the like? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Well, anybody opposed? Done. All right, the first group of items are special natural area district. Now, I do want to make a point because in a little while you will hear of a number of letters that have been written concerning aspects of this. It's not a zoning application. This is special natural area district. Is an application where the applicant seeks to change either natural features such as trees, rocks, outcroppings, and the like. But it has ramifications just above and beyond a pebble on the road. So I don't want you to think that this is strictly a zoning application in the normally conceived sense. First is number 4. I see the counsel for the applicant, Mr. Dorfman's here. First item is 4671 Grosvenor Avenue on the corner of West 250th Street, a new 2-story with attic and cellar single-family dwelling in the Fieldston district. Were there any letters on this, Farrah?
There were only 2 sets, yes, for, the public comment was right here.
One is for the Grosvenor, these are all the letters, and this is for 680 West 2 Street.
On Grosvenor,
Letters for this either, were there?
there is a comment, fairly lengthy, by Ian Bader, lives at 4575. I'm going to read it so that you have the benefit of the comments, and then Mr. Dorfman can respond if he feels so inclined. Supplementing my letter of September 24, I'm required to disclose that I am an architect licensed to practice my profession in the state of New York. I have been elected to be a fellow of the American Institute of Architects and have been the recipient of numerous architectural design awards, including an American Institute of Architects Honor Award for the design of a significant building in the historic core of Copenhagen. In my 40-plus year career as a partner in an internationally recognized firm, I have authored or collaborated on projects of international significance, including most significantly with the late I.M. Pei, the Louvre Museum in the historic heart of Paris. Regarding the appropriateness of the proposed design to the Fieldston Historic District, please note, in its designation, Fieldston is noted for stylistically varied suburban residences, the distinctive topography, and the landscape setting create a distinct sense of place and give the district its special character. And there are a series of bullet points. Proposed design in its disruption of the natural landscape and specific destruction of existing topographical features such as the rocky outcroppings, in its removal of important existing trees, in its absence of any discernible stylistic integrity, would be greatly damaging to the special character of the district. Further, the neighborhood is characterized by a variety of carefully crafted historic styles, each of which is an exemplar of its type. Proposed design lacks any discernible style. In addition to its architectural qualities, the neighborhood has been landmarked because of the exemplary relationship between the built fabric and the natural environment. The proposed design, in part because of its aggressive approach to lot coverage and the significant cutting of the natural contour, would disrupt the balance between artifact and nature. The proposed design lacks the refinement of detail that characterizes the historic district. The palette of materials selected is unsympathetic to the precedent established by the existing historic houses in the neighborhood. Thank you for your attention to this important matter, which affects our shared cultural heritage. Mr. Dorfman, do you have any comments you wish to make on behalf of the applicant?
None.
Is there any member of the committee who has any comments or questions? Let me make a comment if I may. Our function is not to be the design police. An issue that's been raised over the years that I may think is appropriate, given a Dwight Baum house, may not be appropriate for anybody else around here, and vice versa. I respect Mr. Bader, and I respect his credentials and his achievements. I don't agree with the point of view. Anybody who wishes to be heard in opposition to what I've just said, or otherwise?
Were there any other neighbors contacted, any other responses that Mr. Dorfman received?
There was one other one, also in opposition, but kind of falling under the same,
Oh, there it is. Michael and Annette Rubin, no relationship. We live on Delafield Avenue, and the back of our home is a few houses south from the proposed building on Grosvenor. The proposal being considered flies in the face of everything that city planning and landmarks have been trying to achieve, which is to protect the irreparable rock outcroppings, trees, and landscape, and to preserve the character and charm of the old homes. The proposed home does neither. Allowing this to go forward would make a mockery of the authority of the CPC and LPC and begin the slippery slope toward the destruction of the unique beauty of Fieldston. We vehemently oppose this insensitive and unappealing proposal. Having gone through rigorous landmark and city planning processes ourselves during the renovation of our home, we request and respect that our neighbor abide by the same standards for the good of the larger community. Respectfully, Michael and Annette Rubin. Last call. Anyone? David?
Well, the landmarks element of this, what, I missed that. What is their responsibility under landmarks in the Fieldstone district?
They're required to adhere to a number of standards ranging from window design, color of paint, side yards, how the windows are laid out, et cetera.
There's technically a third,
Pardon me?
a third letter.
Oh, hang on, let's.
It's a good thing I sent to each member of the board so they could see it first.
Are they required to go before LPC?
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
We are the stop immediately before
Okay.
they're going to LPC.
And I think your comments about, the police, so to speak, on the LPC,
Right.
and
Third letter, which I apologize for not having read before. Going on.
Excuse me,
We live on Hill.
Chairman,
This is the same thing.
Chairman,
Oh, here it is. To whom it may concern, I am respectfully writing to request the application for the above-mentioned property for construction of a new house on an empty lot be denied. The applicant has not properly examined the requirements for a SNAD application as even a visual survey by eye as opposed to a commissioned site survey reveals that there are rock formations that are being ignored. The steep slope does not appear to be accurately represented on the drawings. In addition to the applicant is requesting an increase of 40% over the allowable coverage, which will result in a house far too big for the size of the property. He cannot claim that his client wants a 6-bedroom house, therefore he must design a larger footprint for the house. The site is simply not big enough for such a requirement. He would be advised to adhere to the modest size of the property and design an appropriate house as of right. It would detrimentally affect the neighborhood for all if everyone is allowed to build whatever suits them. The calculations of the driveway, stair, and patio are included in the coverage calculations. The neighborhood is landmarked, and the quality of the architecture proposed not meet the standards of any houses represented as being comparable. Whereas the applicant's client is a well-known contractor in the neighborhood, this is no reason to defer an application and ask more than is fair and impacts on the overall community detrimentally. Sincerely, Dr. Daniel Rosenbaum. Mr. Dorfman, there are some questions that this letter raises.
can I speak, Chairman, please? Both the CPC has
Please do.
certified out this application to the community board, as well as LPC has reviewed this application and is also certifying this application out to the community board through the CPC as the lead agency on it.
Now let me ask the questions.
Sure.
Is it correct that you're requesting an increase of 40% over the allowable coverage?
It's under the 25% allowable, but because there's a small portion of a steep slope, it is above that. But both landmarks and city planning have counted it as meritorious because it is the same coverage as Mr. Beta's house to the north and to the house to the south. They are equal.
In my mind, that's not an excuse. Have the calculations of the driveway, stair, and patio been included in the coverage calculations?
Yes. Oh, coverage? No, they're not required to. They're not required to be included in the coverage in anyone's home.
It is a substantial. Is it correct that there are rock formations that are being ignored?
Absolutely not. City planning staff members and myself personally walked the site together with the site plan.
And is it correct that the steep slope does not appear to be accurately represented on the drawings?
The survey was done by a reputable surveyor, and it is correct.
Anybody? Bob?
Chuck, if you will, I have two questions. Mr. Dorfman it sounds to me as though he is referring to some response from city planning and from landmarks with regard to the plans for this location. Do we have those responses, or can we see those responses?
Do you have them in writing, or was it just orally conveyed during your submission?
I don't understand the question.
You said in response that city planning and/or landmark preservation had approved the certification of this to the committee, to the community board, and had approved various other things, particularly the allowable coverage aspect.
Correct. The community board has received a letter from city planning certifying out the application for review and comment by the community board.
That equate with approving it? It does. It doesn't have to go back to city planning, which it's got to.
As of August 30th, a letter was given to you that you have time to provide comments back to city planning if you so choose.
Let me just restate the question so that there's no doubt in your mind, mine, or anyone else's. You indicated that it was your view that city planning had approved the calculations which are alleged to be 40% over coverage. Now, did you receive any writing from them that said they, quote, approved, unquote?
The drawings that you have in front of you show those calculations, and those drawings have been annexed by date and sheet on the letter that you received. They have reviewed this, and we have worked with city planning closely on this application.
Reviewing is one thing, and approving is something else. In response to the question that you raised, Chuck, about whether it was more than 40% allowable, whether rocks were being ignored, steep slopes, Mr. Dorfman said that LPC and city planning had reviewed and had approved. What he's saying now is something different, which is...
Wait, I did not say city planning has approved this.
Bob, you're saying that's not.
I did not say
sorry,
they
can you
approved it. I said they certified the application out to the community board for its comment. If you have a comment, you can respond back to the community board with your comments. And it's not 40%. It's really nice. You can take a discount from the top, or you can add it up from the bottom. It's very nice that community members say these things, but they're not true.
Well, hold on. You said a moment ago that there is a 25% coverage allowed, correct?
Correct.
Then you said, if I'm misstating it, stop me. Don't want to be misstating what you say. Then you said that there was a 40% coverage.
No,
that
no,
scheme of...
I did not say that. Mr. Bader said that. I did
No,
not
it
say
wasn't
that.
Mr.
My
Bader,
drawings
I
don't say that, and that's
Daniel
the
Rosenbaum.
truth. 40% coverage has never been allowed in an R1 zone. Absolutely not. Not in a natural area, not anywhere in this district. I'm not Mr. Bader. I don't practice in the Netherlands. I practice in Riverdale. I don't have his
40%
credentials, and I'm not saying
the
that.
allowable coverage.
Right.
The allowable coverage is 25%. If you have a portion of a steep slope on your lot, you are subject to, as a property owner, to a 12.5% coverage. The adjacent properties have 18% coverage, and city planning has agreed to modify and allow an 18% coverage for this lot, similar to its neighbors both north and south.
That is an explanation. Did they do that orally, or did they do it in writing? And don't tell me certified.
They have certified the drawings that you have in front of you, and on those drawings says these calculations.
All they do is certify that they are complete, quote, unquote.
Exactly, they are complete for your
It doesn't
review.
certify they are accurate. We've been down this road over and over again. All it does is certify that they are complete. It has used that argument in court 1,000 times.
I don't know what
only
you mean.
certi-
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you mean.
Sorry, Hal, can you hear me?
Let me
Yes.
try and state it in my
He's asking if
native
we have
language.
written proof that they allowed 18%, and the answer is yes. We have an email both from City Planning, which is Nate Heffron, and from Landmarks,
Okay,
both agreeing that
Okay.
18% is okay.
Who is that?
YM, I have no idea.
Who is YM?
that was my assistant just giving me a message and telling me that, yes, we have received emails from city planning that they agree that 18% is acceptable. And it shows on our drawings those facts. I don't know what more you can ask.
I can ask for those emails.
You have all the right, yeah, those are my private correspondence with city planning. If you'd like to request them from city planning, there's a city planning staff person on this. You can speak with them and get it directly from city planning.
It doesn't work that way, Hal. It works as follows. Members of the community had a question. We presented that question. And you are now telling us that the responses to it. One of the responses that your assistant gave you and you echoed was that you have emails from city planning saying 18% is fine. Can I see that?
Happy to share it with you, Commissioner. Chairperson. Not at this moment. It'll have to be tomorrow or the next day. I'm not in my office.
There was an August,
Everybody, please.
there was an August 30th letter from city planning that was sent here. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Have you seen it?
Well, a cover page always comes with the plans,
Yeah.
but no, as
In
far as.
fact, you were talking, you were
That's what I
talking about
think
it.
he's talking about.
I do not see a cover page on this one.
It doesn't sound like it's a cover page, it's something that came from city planning. Is that what you said, Mrs. Dorfman?
It was emailed to the community board directly from city planning, yes.
It's the same certification letter, yes, yes.
That's what it is?
I sent you everything that they sent.
Are allowed 12.5%,
Mm-hmm.
and he's being approved for, or he says he's being approved for 18.
Right.
That's 40% more
Right.
than the neighbors. That's what this neighbor is
Yeah.
complaining about, and I don't know
Two
if
neighbors.
that's valid or not.
The same exact number.
Two neighbors, so.
How many letters in total have we?
There are a few more letters apparently here. There's one reiterating that same 40% point from Mabel Chan, who is directly opposite the premises. There's Mr. Baders. And then there is, by the way, I shared all of these letters with Mr. Dorfman before the meeting, so he knows what's in them. There's a letter here, which, let me read it to the committee. 4-page letter, so I'm not gonna read it in verbal or text. So it's another letter from Mr. Bader. The same business, he does refer, as some of you may see on page 1 of his letter, to a number of rock outcroppings showing significant formation which appear at the surface of the earth, are not missing and are not present in his, Mr. Dorfman's description. Basically, the claim is too big. Any views? Yes, sir.
Question that came up at the last meeting was whether FPOA had been informed and whether they had taken a position on the issue.
Do not believe they have. Am I correct? Have you seen anything from Farah?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
FPOA.
Did we get something from
No.
FPOA?
Did we?
I'll
I have
look.
not seen it.
I didn't know, I send everything I receive.
Okay. Were they notified? I assume they were. Am I right?
Yes,
All right. So, cutting it to the chase, if I may, the areas of
Can we discuss
complete.
can we discuss the others while they forward those letters?
You were able to forward to us now the emails? Is your colleague able to?
I'm not
do
in
that?
my office. I don't have access to those files.
Does your colleague have access?
No, we're not in our office at this hour. I'm sorry.
Are you prepared to ask city planning or LPC to lay it over?
No,
That you would take a vote now rather than laying it over?
correct.
Usually an invitation to a problem.
Excuse me?
What is your view? You want to go ahead with having a vote now?
If you would like, it's just, you're entitled to give your comments to city planning.
To landmarks too.
You're
All right.
entitled to both.
Anybody who has any comments? Is there a motion? Gentlemen.
Given the large questions asked, and the lack of specificity, in the response, I move that we, recommend, turning this down.
Dorfman, I'm going to second that. You will have between now and the next board meeting, which is when?
Ninth?
Oh, in, November?
Yeah.
I'll get you the date.
Between now and that time, to do 3 things.
Oh, no, sorry, it should be the 14th.
So that maybe the board will choose not to follow what may or may not be the vote of this committee. 1, the 3 things are, for the record. 1, I would call your attention to the rock outcropping email, letter dated September 24, 23 from Mr. Bader, and ask you to address that. 2, I would like you to send us a copy of the emails. And 3, I would like you to tell us exactly what, unless there's somebody who has an addition. 3, tell us exactly what your position is with respect to this 40%. Right? Is there anything else anybody would want to add to that?
Mr. Mergler, it's not 40%, it's an 18% coverage.
Which is 40% over, correct?
18% coverage, the same as Mr. Beta's house and the same as the house to the south. That's the coverage. It's shown clearly on our drawings, which was certified out to you. So I can provide you with the email tomorrow or the next day as you've requested.
November 6th is the next meeting.
November 6th is the full board. At that time,
Land use meeting.
Land use, oh, no, land use meeting.
when is the next board meeting?
Yes, November 14th.
You have till November 14th to consider any comments you want to make to this letters so that the full board can hear them.
I
I have a
have no further
resolution and I
comments.
have a
I have no
second.
further comments, and I request that you put your comments into city planning.
I'm not gonna do that. I've been
It's your
asked
choice.
by landmarks
Okay.
to
Okay,
comment
thank
to
you.
them. We have been asked by landmarks to comment to them. We have not been asked by city planning to comment to them. They are, however, a recipient of all resolutions and minutes of this board, so that they will see those comments. Now, having said that, there's a motion and a second to disapprove. All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hands. Contrary minded, abstentions, unanimous. The next one gives me a particular problem. And it is one that really is not totally fair to Mr. Hoffman or to the.
I'm sorry,
applicant.
I'm not hearing you clearly. Hold on, let me see if I could raise this volume. Go ahead.
The second application relates to 4800 Independence Avenue on the corner of West 249th Street, a new two-story school dormitory building. Raises a question which is not one that Mr. Dorfman has in any way colored or represented or the like. So the issue is not with him. The question of the chicken and the egg. The applicant says, I am not going to make the kind of investment that is required for an engineering study and the like in order for the Riverdale Sanitation Commission to approve or consider approval of my application to hook up this part of the building until I know that the board is okay with the SNAD aspects of it, all right? And the Riverdale Sanitation Commission says, I never approve an application without an engineering study. So you have the chicken and the egg. Who goes first? Dorfman, I know of only one way that this can be solved. Assume for the sake of argument that it takes a month or 2 months or 3 months for the school to get together the information it must get to have the study conducted, right? Is there any way that you think of, that you can think of, that we can defer action until one of these pieces is done? Let me explain to you why. If you don't have a hookup to a sanitary district or outlet, you're going to have effluent all over the property, which is not going to be very good. The likelihood is that since the sanitary district approved hooking up the main building, the only problem should be whether or not it still has sufficient capacity to hook this up. When this issue came up at the last meeting, I asked if you would have a conversation with Ms. Morgenthau. Did you?
Just to let you know about the chicken and the egg, the chicken has retained an engineer to be in contact with the Riverdale Sanitation Company's representative and has initiated those contacts during this past month. That's number one.
Go ahead. Got it? Let me,
Number two,
let me-
there's really no
let me-
number two.
Right.
You've asked me to do that. You asked me to reach out. Oh, number two is you received an email from Miss Morgenthau that says that we're in contact and that she withdraws her objection because we are in contact and we're working through this and we're going to do them simultaneously, not one before the other.
Let me be very clear about it. She sent an email this afternoon. Do you have that by any chance?
Which one, the,
Morgenthau's. This is the
yeah,
Snapchat.
I can get it, let me get it for you.
I don't know if you got that, Al.
No, I did not receive an email through the board or through Miss Morgenthau.
We received one around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I think so. That's when I saw it. There it is. So there was one today.
Yeah.
We wrote to Ms. Morgenthau, that Ms. Morgenthau is the president of the sanitary district. And as I recall it, she sent an email saying in substance that there have been discussions, but she can't proceed until there's an engineering study that shows that she has the capacity to do it. The chicken and egg I'm referring to. Which do you have to show? Your position, your client's position is, I'm not gonna spend the money for an engineering study unless the community board thinks it's a good idea and says SNAD's okay. He says, I can't tell you it's okay until I know whether there is sufficient capacity. It is. Let me read this to you. It came in 5:37 PM today. Dear Farah, I spoke briefly with Chairman Myrtle this afternoon. Typically, Riverdale Sanitation receives a request to connect letter with the appropriate DEP forms attached. This is the start of a long process involving several legal steps to be completed by the applicant and an agreement by the applicant to provide RSC with a condition and capacity study to be reviewed by RSC's engineer as well as stormwater drainage plans, a full site survey including building plans, a geotechnical report, and copies of all permits issued from DOB and DEP. That's what she maintains they get from the applicant. RSC complies, that's the sanitation, complies with the exact same requirements as DEP and does not issue a consent to connect until all requirements have been met and approved by our engineer. The board will then meet to discuss these recommendations. We have not received any of the above information from the project architect at this point. This is not on Mr. Dorfman, this is a position of the institution. It is my understanding there are currently no designs available to review as the yeshiva is awaiting SNAD approval before moving forward. That's the chicken and the egg thing. But let me try something on the members of this committee. Assuming for the sake of argument that we put a time limit on RSC to approve or disapprove, instead of it being someday down the road, just give them 3 months after the yeshiva provides the information. Assuming we could do that, and assuming we did do that, would your client, Mr. Dorfman, be prepared to provide them the information so they can get started?
We have requested of the Riverdale Sanitation Company's engineer for the last month through numerous emails to get in touch and provide us with the format that they want the flow study in. We have not gotten a response. So I believe your request will fall on deaf ears. And as a excuse me, I listened. I listened to you very patiently. Mrs. Morgenthal's letter asked for DOB permits, approvals, letters to the DEP, and applications as such. She's only asked us last month for a flow study, which my client, the applicant, has tried to produce and is willing to pay for. There is no lack of motivation here on my client's end. This application before this local committee is to provide a comment to the City Planning Commission. It does not authorize my client to build a building, to connect to the sewer, to do anything. This is just about the SNAD rules that you've been asked to comment on as a community board. And that is what I am requesting that you do as a board.
Hoffman, not helping yourself. So let me make the point in precise terms, and I'll make it again. Assume for the sake of argument that my colleagues would agree with me that we tell RSC that it has no more than X number of months to act upon the application following the receipt of the information requested in this letter, which you have not received until, or heard of until now, all right? If we did that, would your client be willing to provide them the information they requested in whatever format you deem appropriate?
I'm sure my client would be happy to provide the appropriate information to the Riverdale Sanitation Company. It cannot provide a Department of Buildings permit because without a SNAD approval, it cannot even file at the Department of Buildings yet. Or it could file, but it will just get an objection and never get an approval. But they will be willing to provide anything reasonable, a study, calculations, geotechnical, whatever she's asked for can be provided and will be provided.
Let me read to you what the request is. There isn't a DOB permit, then you can't provide it. That's clear. What they want is a condition and capacity study. Number one, is that something that can be provided? If you
We
need
have been
time-
prepared for the last month to comply with that, but we can't get a response from their
The
engineer.
answer is yes or no? Yes is the
Yes.
answer. As well as a stormwater drainage plan, yes or no?
That's already done, yes.
A site survey,
That's done.
any building plans and geotechnical reports.
Building plans we have and
Any.
we can get the geotechnical borings in a number of weeks.
And any permits that have in fact issued from DOB and DEP, you can provide those, they're public record.
We have no permits at this point because we have not filed yet.
That's the answer, there are none, that's full.
It just says any.
All right, so now I've put the question to you. Would you be prepared to provide all of that information if we set a time limit on the time within which RSC must act or it will be deemed to have acted? Would you do that?
I think it's possible. I'd have to ask my client, but I think that would be a reasonable request to have them comply within a certain period of time.
Right. So then what I will propose to the committee, if you choose to accept it or not, I don't purport to speak for you, is that we lay this matter over with the consent of Mr. Dorfman for 3 months. We advise the RSC that it must respond affirmatively or negatively or under whatever terms it wants to within 3 months to the application from the time the material is provided. Would you agree with that, Mr. Dorfman? Do you want to talk to your client? It's fine. We will vote on this and ask the full board meeting to address it. You can have till then to talk to your client about it.
I do not believe the client will wait for 3 months to get comments from the Land Use Committee. If you would like to submit comments to the community, to the SNAD staff person who's handling the SNAD application, I'm sure that you can do that, but they're not going to wait 3 months to complete, to continue the SNAD application process. They are going to run concurrently with the next phase that SNAD has, and they will, if you want to put a time limit on us to provide that information to RSC, we will also accept the time window, and then once they get our information, they then have a time window to respond back to us. That I'm sure my client.
3 months.
No, not, that's not what we're saying. I'm saying if you.
I heard your view. I'm going to make the resolution that we will approve it on condition. No, I don't think that's appropriate either. I think the motion should be to adjourn the matter 3 months, table it for 3 months on the basis that we will request as part of a resolution to be adopted at the board, that it will require sanitation district give its comments, approval or rejection, within 3 months after the materials requested in the October 18, 2023 letter, which will be appended to the minutes, are provided to them by, and that you, client, agrees to that formulation, failing which the application will be denied. If you don't have a hookup, you know what's going to happen with the effluent.
There's not going to be
have
any.
the effluent. I'm not joking. I
Chairman,
had,
there
and
will
my
be no
entire
effluent.
block had a
There will be
right
no
to
building.
dump all of its effluent in the Hudson River. Till about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when we signed an agreement with the city to stop that nonsense. You can't have that. If you have it all over your property, you got kids there, you got school there.
So it's all gonna flow downhill, literally.
And right downhill from you is somebody I do not want to disturb, ambassador designate to a very important nation.
Members of the committee, there will be no building without a sewer connection. So passing or denying the SNAD application that's before you on this property has nothing to do with the sewer. Even if you approved it and the Riverdale Sanitation Company decided not to allow a connection, it would just be a set of drawings in somebody's cabinet. So let's be clear what is being asked for here.
Let me show you our magnanimity. If you have a different way of formulating it that ensures they will act promptly and you will finally provide them the information, which is what we mentioned to you at the last meeting, you will do that, we can act. I have a motion before you. Is there anybody who wishes to comment it?
Yeah, Marty, and then there's 2 questions on the
For the questions, I'm sorry.
They're
Marty.
not committee members. Marty has a question.
Yes, please. I need to apologize to you. First, I misunderstood these diagrams. I've conferred with other board members, a number of them, who had the same misconception. I believed incorrectly that the dormitory is going to be on the west side of the drive, and therefore, right on Independence Avenue. Apparently, that is incorrect. It's on the east side of the drive, which leads me to two questions. Number one, how much of the property is been landmarked beyond the mansion itself?
What drive are you talking about?
Entranceway to the can you show my?
It's on the
picture?
west side of the driveway.
Yes, and I was in the misconception that it was on the east side. So I'm apologizing up front.
Oh.
Well, that's my first question. My second, well, you didn't answer my question, though.
Share it on the screen?
Yes. How much of the property beside the mansion has been landmarked?
This piece of property is not subject to landmarking.
Mansion was never landmarked?
The property that the dormitory is proposed on is not subject to landmarks rules.
Therefore,
This is only SNED, city plan.
I'm aware of that. This is a board question. My concern in asking this question is the cobblestone driveway. I didn't think of it until I drove past and took a picture, which I'm hoping is coming up. Driveway seems to be diverted on this diagram.
Nothing has changed. It's not part of this application.
I'm making an observation as a citizen. I'd like to know, when I drove up and looked, the picture I hope comes up, which is my photograph.
Your photograph.
Sarah, my photograph.
What is that?
The photograph I
You
gave
just
you.
had.
Wow. Number eight.
No, my photograph.
That he sent me. Gotta go get it, I'm sorry, hold on.
I drove up and I looked up the road. I mean, I have it on my iPad, but I sent it to the board. I see a driveway that goes directly to the mansion. I look at your diagram and have the impression that roadway is being diverted or shifted in a way.
I'll repeat myself again for clarity. The driveway is not on this property and nothing is being done under this application to the adjacent property.
I don't think you followed it. He asked you for informational
What?
purposes. Informational purposes. He showed me a photograph on his iPad, which he's gonna locate in a minute, of what the condition is today. The driveway is a straight line to the mansion. Here it is. You want to turn it around so you can
I don't know
see
if you can see it at this distance. My picture.
Marty,
Those aren't my pictures.
No, I know they're
Marty,
not,
but that's
we're
not
just
it either.
trying to get a visual
look at your screen.
picture.
Look, it is along Independence.
Thought it was, the west side is here, this is the east side here. He's saying the driveway is going here, right, and it's
I
on
have
the
a
east
photograph
side.
right here, and I know you can't see it,
Can you-
but as I look up past the portals, I see one straight driveway going directly to the mansion. Circle in front of the mansion. I don't see that represented on your diagram.
The edge of the driveway, which says adjacent property, is shown beyond the property line. There's no change to it under this application. That's before you at this time.
I'm ignorant, but I look at your diagram, I see a direct entrance coming in from to 249th Street, and it splits. There's a curvature, and it splits. One goes to the mansion and one goes to the back of the dormitory. That is not what exists at present. There's one direct driveway.
I believe you're referring to the proposed walkway that we put on the drawings. There's no change to the driveway.
Not asking you if there's a change to the diagram. He's asking you if the diagram directly depicts what's actually going on or proposed to be changed. And you tell me that there's no plan on changing it. Then why do you have a different depiction on your plan?
The driveway is shown as starting on West 249th Street and going straight up. You see the edge of the curb, and then it starts to flare out slightly by the word existing site plan, and that's where the curve is. It's not on the property of the proposed dormitory. We're not changing anything. We're not proposing to change anything. And I keep hearing the same question, and I'm trying to give you a different answer to try to get you to understand this, but that's not our property. This application is just for the dormitory adjacent to that driveway. Excuse me, my whole voice is hoarse.
If I'm wrong, but Telsa owns both pieces, doesn't it?
Maybe it would help to just, I don't know if, we can't see what you're looking at. We can't see the photos or the diagram, but this is a separate lot, correct, Mr. Dorfman?
Correct.
Put that near the
Don't
camera.
touch the screen, or
So the property, just so I'm getting very confused, I'm trying to pay attention. The property is two separate lots, only one, it's hard to see, let me see.
Something happened. Okay. Our property is, from this photograph, is on the right side, beyond the trees on the right side. It has nothing to do with this driveway.
You're looking at your pictures here, looking up. It's like somehow fits there to the right of this.
so,
It's on the hill, basically, the
Then I'm
hill
back to
to the
being
right
on-
that goes down to this street, which is, we
back
talked about
to
that
it being
gutter
on the
there.
west side
Which,
then.
did they comment on that? Yeah, or making it
Okay.
like Wave Hill did,
This is Wave Hill here.
right along here.
Yeah, so
And
this
this is
is on the
street,
east
and-
side of the driveway.
And there are trees that they're not showing along.
All right, Mr. Dolphin, score 1 point for you. Now, where are we on the proposal that I made to you? Will you please do this for me? Present it to the Rosh Yeshiva and let me know and tell him that I personally have seconded this motion to try and get you to do it. He and I know each other for more than a year, for a long time. So I guess I was the second. The motion is before you. We restate it so we all know. Is to suggest, A, Mr. Dorfman's client agree to a 3-month adjournment of this application. B, that we advise Mr. Dorfman's client to submit as promptly as possible the information sought in the letter of today from Ms. Morgenthau, a copy of which, Mr. Dorfman, will be provided to you by our office later today. C, that if they do agree to the first 2 parts, we will then say to the sanitary district, because you've got 3 months to act, or your approval, as far as we're concerned, will be deemed to have been given. Or we will act affirmatively, and we will act affirmatively on the application, barring any new developments that might change people's minds substantively.
I have a question. If they don't act, and we approve this, where is the effluent gonna go?
He's not gonna build, he says.
Why 3 months?
Just out of the
Oh,
air.
you just said- Okay.
If you'd like to make it 90, 120,
Well, I was wondering what he wants.
well, he's not responding at all. If you think 3 months is unfair, Mr. Dorfman,
Yes, sir.
Al, if you think the 3 months is unfair, as I'm sure the sanitary district will think it's unfair, just let us know between now and the time of the board meeting, okay?
I'm happy to comply with getting the information or recommending my client get his engineers to get the information. But again, I ask you, this is a SNAD application. No sewer will get connected or be available to get connected until the building department and the Department of Environmental Protection issues its permits. Before you, it has nothing to do with sewers or building code. This has to do with a special district, and the City Planning Commission has referred this out to you to provide comments on the special natural area rules that are part of this application. Otherwise, I'm happy to work with the Riverdale Sanitation Company. I'm sure the Rosh Hashiva will also be happy to work with them and comply with whatever we can.
If there is not a connection, and though you tell me there will be no construction without it, if there is not a connection, I will not personally support, for whatever that's worth, an application that would allow effluent to go on the land or not go properly.
Look, I really beg to differ with you, Mr. Chairman. There will never be a connection without a DOB permit. A DOB permit will never be issued without a site connection issued by the Department of Environmental Protection. So this is just one element of that process. There will never be any illegal effluent issued from a building that doesn't exist. Please.
I have no confidence, zero confidence, as a former commissioner of buildings, in this Department of Buildings doing anything accurately. All right? Said that.
I may not be Mr. Bader, but I can tell you very much that there will be no permit issued under my name on a building without a sewer connection.
Then what's your problem?
Because I'm not here to address the sewer right now. I'm only here to address the SNAD rules.
Thank you. You've addressed them. I've heard you. Is there any discussion from the committee or any questions?
One point. Last time I raised the point of their perimeter wall, there's severe deterioration.
Yeah.
Responded to how they will deal with it.
Al, did you hear the point that Mr. Gelman just made?
No, I'm sorry.
All right.
I'm sorry. Last month, I brought up the fact that immediately west of the west stone wall, there is severe deterioration of the ground between the wall and the roadway is essentially caving into the side there, which is quite hazardous. And that road is actually not that old. They repaved it probably 3 or 4 years ago. What, if anything, are you planning to do to take care of that problem?
I have spoken with the client about this issue, and as part of our Department of Transportation filing, we are going to request to do something similar that's been done on the west side of Independence Avenue, to put some sort of more permanent, like a culvert, a swale of either stone or some sort of brick to allow the water to travel down the hill without eroding the earth between the wall and the pavement. But that's a different filing with, as part of the builder's paving plan, that's part of the Department of Transportation. And that's another long process that's months long because we have to ask for waivers for that. We haven't even gotten to that yet. But
That's fine, I just want to make sure it wasn't, so-called slipping between the cracks.
No, you asked, somebody at the meeting asked for it last time, and I brought it up. I think it was a
thank you.
good suggestion.
All those in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Contrary minded, abstentions, carried unanimously. Again, any comments you might have, including questions concerning the appropriateness of the time period, please let us have it between now and the board meeting so that the board can act with full knowledge. We will send you a copy of her letter. We will advise Ms. Morgenthau of the time frame, and if she has a real problem, she should talk to you about it and let us know.
Thank you.
I restudied these pictures, I made the mistake. I accept that my driveway and their walkway aren't the same. However, I think the problem is the attempt on their part to not give us the total picture. Not seeing the mansion here, not seeing its relationship to the rest of the property, which is adjacent property, a lot of adjacent properties, but there's a specific property, and I think they should be more honest in their presentation. I was incorrect.
In this case, context is pretty important.
Very important.
Okay, that's a fair point.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is
Excuse me, Chuck.
680
Chuck,
West
I've had my hand up.
232nd Street.
I've had my
Corner of-
hand up since the previous property.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, this goes for the previous property, this property, and the next two SNAD ones. My recollection is the community board only had until October 30th to submit comments back to city planning about the ULURP. Is that correct?
I'm not sure the date, it may be,
Yeah,
yes.
end of October, yes.
So the board meeting is too late, so you would have to decide tonight whether you were going to, what your committee's position is on the SNAD part of the ULURP, correct?
The position of the committee is it will approve it only on the following circumstances. And that is the position of the committee. The full board has not acted on it yet. City planning has historically allowed for comments like this to be made subsequently by the full board.
But past the deadline, the October 30 deadline, I know that there's a ULURP form, which in the past, the community board has not completed on time, and therefore the comments were not filed on record. That's what I'm just concerned about, that we've had this issue with the Hebrew Home, that I want to make sure that you are going to complete the ULURP form, which gives you only 4 options: yes, no, yes with conditions, no with conditions. And my understanding is that is due on October 30th, no later.
We will communicate with city planning, Jody, to tell them that this is the position of the committee. The board's decision comes afterwards. Mr. Dorfman, do you have an objection to that?
I don't control the community board.
Is Camilla on? Could she just verify whether what I'm saying is accurate?
Do you have an objection to that?
I don't know who's talking.
I am, Merlin.
Asking you.
Yes, I'm listening.
I'm asking you, you have an objection to our following a procedure we have followed many times in the past, that the committee will take a position that unfortunately the full board doesn't meet until days after we have taken that position. And so we have asked the City Planning Commission to take the full board's position after that date And if not, it just has to look at the committee's position. May or may not be in your favor.
That is up to the city planning commission. They make the rules, I don't.
But you refuse to comment on it, right?
It's not that I refuse to comment on it, it's not my position to comment on it.
Okay. Jody, it is what it is. The problem with the scheduling issues that we have from time to time. Nothing I can do. I will tell you, we will complete the form, the EULA form, with the statements just made. This is the land use committee's position. The board will vote on it on such and such a date, and will be transmitted to you at that time. Okay? All right, we have.
One more hand.
Oh, Jane Sokoloff. Ms. Sokoloff?
Yes, I understood from the last meeting that you asked the yeshiva to notify the neighbors of what their plans were. They have not.
My understanding is that that has indeed been done.
No, it has not. None of my neighbors know anything about this, including the neighbor who is immediately adjacent to that property. So,
Dorfman, is that correct?
We notified as directed any neighbors within 200-foot radius of building.
right, well, there's nobody's within 200 feet of the building. It's 200 feet of the property.
It's a property line, not the building. That's what I said.
Right, well, so that's why no
Did you
one was
do that?
notified. And the only other thing I wanted to mention is that the yeshiva has put up a 8 to 10 foot fence around that property and they don't have a permit. So I don't know
Different.
why we would trust them to do anything. According,
That's a different issue.
I understand that,
Now,
I'm
did
just
you
saying,
notify within 200 feet of the property line?
No, we notified it as of 200 feet from the center of the building. We were not required by any rules
Let
of
me
city
withdraw
planning.
my motion. I move that it be disapproved. For failure to notify the adjacent property owners within 200 feet of the property line, notwithstanding precise instruction at the last meeting. That's the motion.
That's just flat out deceptive. If you know that 200 feet from the mansion is still within your property, then obviously what you have done is you have decided to ignore any requirement to notify anybody adjacent to the property.
Well, they're treating it as it's a separate property.
Property owner.
But, I mean, 200 feet from the
The
property
rule
line.
of the shtick.
Called subterfuge.
That's the motion. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Absolutely.
All those, any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion? Let me repeat it. The motion is to disapprove for failure to notify property owners within 200 feet of the property line as specifically requested by the committee at the last meeting. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Contrary minded? Unanimous. All right. .680 West 232nd Street, corner of Independence Avenue. A new two-story school building for autistic children parking in the cellar. Can I ask you a question? Do you plan on any excavation in order to have parking in the cellar?
Yes,
How deep is the excavation? What's the excavation plan?
approximately 8 to 10 feet.
And do we have a plan for that showing it?
You have the complete city planning package that was submitted at the last meeting.
I haven't seen it, that's why I'm asking you.
I believe it shows a section through the site. And it shows the depth of the parking garage, yes.
Which sheet is it, Hal? Do you remember offhand?
I believe it's on CPC 003.
Now, did you notify on this property? I think you did, am I wrong?
You have letters.
I know I do. I had letters on the other one too.
No letters on 4800 because
Okay, let's see.
There were letters on 4800. We sent you a copy of all the letters that went out.
Yeah. There's three. I do admit these are new glasses, but I don't see it.
There's a longitudinal
It says garage elevation here. Am I missing something?
I'm not certain what you're asking for.
I'm asking you, do you have a plan or a filing or a content of this that shows underground? But it doesn't show how deep it is, how deep the excavation is.
The first floor is at 188 feet, and the garage is at 178.5, so it's approximately 9.5 feet.
Now, what is there now? Is there rock there or what?
The rock doesn't start until about between 8 and 10 feet down.
Now, let me do the letters and then do the. Let me get this thing done. There are a number of letters on this one. The Whitehall says, blah, 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 blah. Reiterate the following previously conveyed concerns include increases in traffic at an already busy bus location, given the park and a transportation bus stop widely used. In prior years, there were attempts to create bike lanes in this area that were halted following a traffic study given foreseeable dangerous increases in overall traffic. The corner provides a blind spot that creates a hazard, and it goes through backups. I have to say again, these are not snag objections. These are valid traffic objections. They are valid concerns. They are not the issues to which SNAG is directed. Doesn't mean they shouldn't influence your thinking, just so you know. This is from Eliezer Overstein. We strongly oppose the building of a 3-story school with plans for over 100 students on the corner of 232nd and Independence. We are concerned that this change from current residential zoning will have a significant effect on the safety and well-being of our community. Currently, there's a single-family home in that space on a block that is zoned for residential houses. On a regular morning, it is extremely difficult to exit our driveway on 232nd Street as the parents from PS 24 and Riverdale Kingsbridge Academy are dropping off their children. 232nd Street is a heavily trafficked area in that it leads very easily to Henry Hudson Parkway. We often have to push our way into the oncoming traffic in order to exit our driveway, which will only be exaggerated. In addition, we are currently enduring a 2-year construction project on the Henry Hudson Park Highway. This has necessitated rearrangement of heavily trafficked bus lines and commuter pathways and led to increased traffic and accidents. It would increase the risk of accidents and injuries if another construction project is initiated in the immediate vicinity. 232nd Street also has a drainage problem and flooding after the storms. We have to hire private sewer cleaners to come and clean and help with this persistent problem. We're not sure how this added burden on the street will affect this. Okay, question. Have you taken a look in terms of whether or not this stormwater situation has a direct impact on the topography of the premises or your proposed garage?
Yes.
And
You asked me if we looked at it. Yes, we have.
and found what?
What's your question?
And found what, Hal?
And found what? We have a sewer fronting the property. Found what? I don't understand. This is not part of the SNAD application.
You have stormwater that impacts on the topography right at the place where you're digging down 7 or 8 feet. That obviously has an application then.
Yes.
What have you done to deal with it?
We have a civil engineer who has designed a storm drainage system.
Has he certified it will take care of this problem?
When you say certified, it has not been filed yet with, well, it actually has been filed, and it's in the process of approval right now. It has not been certified by the city at this moment.
Don't you see the impact? I just need to know. I'm trying to get answers to the questions that people have raised. So the answer you're giving me is you believe that the engineer has filed something which has not yet been approved, and that may or may not be approved, right?
No. I do not, it's not that I believe, I know he has filed it. The fees have been paid. The drawings have been done. It's been through many reviews, and it's in the process of being approved. And that is not what I'm here to answer questions about. I'm here to direct you to answer questions, if you have any, about the special natural area district features.
I don't think that the fact of erosion when you're digging down 6 feet or 7 feet is a perfect question on SNAD, right?
No.
Fair enough. You and I disagree.
Okay.
The next letter is one which again deals with the traffic situation. Then comes the one that I've raised with you at the last meeting. There is a restrictive covenant that runs with the land, has previously been enforced by the Supreme Court, New York County, as requiring only residential buildings on the property that is at issue here. Have any view on that? And that certainly involves the land and its utilization.
Well, I have no point of view on that at all.
Maybe adding a sidewalk on that corner?
Excuse me?
Okay.
It's not part of our property. We have no ability to add or subtract anything from that property.
That's not even an objection.
Somebody do a letter?
Yeah, they were,
Relevant, but not on his
right.
subject, right?
Say.
As a resident of this neighborhood who walks along that street many times during the week, I would be happy if the owner of that property would put a sidewalk up on that corner of Independence and 232nd Street. As a community member.
Let's go down the road. There are two large trees in the backyard of 680 West 232nd Street. There's a substantial tree, an oak tree, that will have to be removed in the event of construction. Is that correct?
There's one large tree, correct.
And what do you plan to do in terms of mitigation, and why do you want to remove it?
It's the chicken and the egg. I can't design a building unless I move the tree. But we are mitigating it by planting 10 new trees on the site.
What is the caliber of those trees?
The caliber of the trees will be, as per city planning's requirement, 3 inches, and they will grow to be tall if the sun shines.
You and I shouldn't live that long.
I hope I do.
48. Tree is 48 inches, yeah.
Tree.
I know. Second point, we found when we moved in 81, there was a large red oak growing close to the property line. Over the years, it has grown taller and more majestic, and it has been given routine care in keeping with its beauty. If there is construction in the backyard of 680 West 232nd Street, the critical root zone of our oak will be destroyed, which means that our tree will almost certainly die. If the tree dies, it will remove the present shading of the house, causing us to increase our air conditioning, et cetera, et cetera. Is it correct that that tree also will be removed? Will be impacted?
I'm not certain about that tree. I don't show that on our drawings.
If I can interject for one moment, may I?
Who is that?
Sure, go ahead. Who's that? Ms. Jesselson?
Okay, yes, please. This is,
Paula, go ahead.
all right, this is Sarah Jesselson. I'd like to actually break my comments into 2 sections. I can address the oak this moment, but there are a number of other things which you'll probably find in a later letter from me. So let me address the issue of the oak. Before I start, the tree that they are coming in for is a pin oak. I believe Ken Olmsted of Olmsted Tree Care is well known to this committee, certainly many people in Riverdale. He's a licensed arborist, and I asked him to come over to sort of help me out in terms of discussing the trees. So first of all, the tree in the backyard of 680 is a pin oak, and it is probably almost as large as my tree, which stands at 90 feet. Anybody who has actually been at the property of 680, probably from the street, but certainly from the backyard, cannot be under any illusions that my tree is sitting maybe 5 feet off their property line. That being the case, anybody who has trees or cares for trees knows that there's something called the critical root zone. The roots of a large tree extend out practically to the edge of the canopy. There is no question that my tree extends quite a lot into that property. Nobody who is doing construction, and let me point out that the construction that is being planned is coming straight to the property line, has any illusions as to digging below is going to cut all the roots from probably someplace around where their own pin oak stands to the property line, guaranteeing, not just possibly, guaranteeing the demise of a tree, which is now approximately, according to Ken Olmsted, 125 years old. It was here before we moved in, and considering that most red oaks, and mine is a red oak, should live about 300 years, it is just approaching middle age, and I'm devastated. It's probably one of the most gorgeous trees in the area. And I'm devastated at the thought that it will be willy-nilly lost due to construction. There are things that if it was not such an extensive construction, not going all the way to the property line, Ken tells me there are ways to try to minimize the damage. You will notice that there's nothing on this SNAD approval that even recognizes the fact that there will be tremendous impact on me and my tree. And I used to joke with people that the tree is the true owner of our property and we're just renters. That's how magnificent and wonderful it is. And I invite anybody, including Hal Dorfman, to come and see that tree and see the condition it's in. So that is an issue that really, really, really should not be sort of casually ignored. I'm guessing there will, well, I have several other objections that go to SNAT approval, and I would be happy to discuss it, but I'm willing to stop now.
Mr. Dorfman, do you want to respond? You don't have to. Do you want to?
Sorry, I just switched from gallery mode and I had my microphone off. I needed to re-plug in my device here.
You hear what she said?
About the tree that's on her property?
Yeah, yeah.
The trees on her property is her tree, yes.
Main thing, you will, by your construction, destroy that tree?
I'm not certain.
Please don't treat us as fools. You know quite well where the position of the tree is, and if you don't, you should. You know enough about construction. You're a licensed architect. You know exactly what you can and cannot do in the proximity of a large tree. I'm sorry to be so pointed, but please don't tell me it's on my property and therefore of no concern to you.
That's not fair, Ms. Jesselson. The point you're making is that though it is on your property, not his, only his property that is directly affected in this application. Your point is that in the course of this construction, he or his contractors may damage the root system. That's the point you're trying to make. And I'm trying to find out if that is correct.
That is correct, and I can,
I hear you. I'm asking him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hoffman.
I'm a little overwhelmed by the other person's comments. My screen keeps getting overwhelmed and being changed from gallery to just a single person's viewpoint. If Mrs. Jesselson would like to put something in writing and submit it to the board as part of the comments to city planning, I'm sure we'll address it with the city planning staff.
It's already been.
Now talking to the Land Use Committee of Community Board 8. I wish you wouldn't pull that routine, because I don't give a rat's what city planning says if this board is to the contrary. All right?
I'm governed by the rules of the SNAT area regulations, and I'm trying to comply with them.
Enough.
Hal, will you commit to working with Sir Jesselson on protecting the root structure of that tree, which apparently reaches probably 15 or 20 feet into your property?
I have no way to, I can't commit to that. I'm not the property owner. And I can only ask the property owner if he's interested in doing that.
When will you do that?
I can speak to him tomorrow.
And you will get back to us with an answer on that question right away.
Absolutely. Hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow.
Do you recommend it to the owner?
Would I recommend it? I don't make recommendations that affect the person's use of his property. He has to tell me.
That's not true at
I'm
all.
telling you, will you tell me what his views are concerning the restrictive covenant on the land?
My views on the restrictive covenant on the land? Again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't make representations on restrictive covenants. I'm here to help the client.
Has your client, after being told about the existence of the covenant and being provided with a copy of it, as a matter of both actual notice and constructive notice, how does he justify violating that covenant and guaranteeing a lawsuit to enjoin construction.
He hasn't been issued he hasn't even been issued a permit to try to construct.
Issue, you're never gonna get one, it's gonna get enjoined, as the last guy did.
I'm here to address your questions about the SNAD area. I'm not his attorney. I'm sorry, Mr. Mergler, that I'm not.
Why don't you get in touch with them and find out if they had a view that there was something wrong with the covenant, that it was inapplicable, that it was stale, any argument that you might have. And what you're telling me in return is I don't give a damn that there's an argument, because I'm only here to talk about SNAD, right?
That's not my point of view at all, and I would appreciate, I respect your point of view as the chairman. Respect my point of view. I'm his architect addressing a concern with city planning. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an arborist. I am a community member.
There are a series of other letters here, all seem to be focusing primarily on the traffic conditions. Those are really not proper for a land use SNAD issue.
Mr. Merger, if I may.
Wait,
Oh,
hold on.
Sorry?
Wait, I haven't finished with you.
Sorry.
You get a chance, I promise. The remaining letters that came in all focused primarily on the traffic condition. You have a copy of them. Unless somebody feels strongly about wanting to address questions on that, I would like to move to the gallery. Do you have a problem with that? Now, Ms. Jesselson.
Okay, I'm terribly sorry to have interrupted you. I thought I had sent a copy to the community board of a lengthy letter that I sent out on October 16th, which would be Monday, I guess, because in addition to the fact that carefully my tree, while certainly not on the 680 property, has been ignored or finessed, in my opinion, there are a few other points I'd really would like to make. In looking over some of the SNAD rules, one of the other areas of SNAD regulation is the protection of topsoil. Now, if you've looked, or if anybody has looked carefully at the plans, you'll realize that just about the entire property is going to be resurfaced with a building, which means basically that the entire topsoil is going to disappear. I believe that that is an unfortunate omission, particularly in a SNAD area. And by the way, this is just historic. This particular block was not originally in SNAD, and Jeanette Spectry, who used to live on Scenic Place, who was an officer of our homeowners association, and I appealed to have our block included because we had a lot of trees and basically trees that we felt required protection. So I'm very anxious that all the work we did should yield some fruit. So I'd like to point out, as I say, that the topsoil is conveniently not mentioned and will completely disappear. Now, going to another issue, which is implicit but not stated, is the difference between permeable and impermeable surfaces. So some of this, I think, is a little bit beyond my ability to quite follow all the architectural issues, but I will point out to you that in the present situation, there are
letter on October 17th.
On the 16th. Should be on the 16th.
Letters from her, I think, in there.
I only have one. All right, let's make sure we have a copy in the file, all right? Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't find your letter in the file. I wanted to make sure the file was complete. Please go ahead. Ms. Jesselson, please go ahead.
Footprint of 4,000 579 square feet. That is going to be, that in other words, that's grass, is going to be reduced in the new plan to 312 square feet, which means that 6% of what was grass is now going to be grass. So it gives you a sense of the enormous change that's going to take place when this building is put up. And by the way, I don't know how people count stories, but there's a basement, which if you don't want to count it as a story, I understand. There'll be 2 floors and there's an attic. So while there's nothing anybody can do about the height, I just want to point out that this is either a 2.5 or a 3-story building, just so people understand that it's going to be relatively massive and to my mind, a bit out of character. So I just want to point out the enormous reduction of grassy area. And the last thing I want to say, and you'll see that on the plan, is that to the west of the property, there's a little smidgen, it's really a partial triangle that says that the land to the west of the property is vacant land, and and you would be led to believe that in fact it is very, very tiny. In fact, we bought that piece of land when we bought the house. We bought it from the city, rem taxes, and it was a disgusting piece of property at the time. It had been used by probably the entire neighborhood to dump junk and builder's debris. I personally, on my hands and knees, cleared it, and it is a 1/4 acre of land, in fact, even though much of it is in the bed of the road and it is all unbuildable. It is now a garden, and it has been worked on extensively for at least 25 years. So while we're talking about natural features, I just want it clearly understood that this is not a wasteland. This is something that has been carefully planted, nurtured, and enjoyed for many years by ourselves and many of our neighbors. So I think that this pretty much covers all my objections, and I believe that they, well, not all, but the ones that relate to SNAD. And I hope that this board will understand, as they certainly seem to, the enormous detrimental impact this is going to have all around. Thank you.
Any question for any member of the board? Any questions from any member of the community?
Jody has her
do you have
hand
your
up.
hand?
Yes,
Go ahead,
my hand
Jody.
is up. Mr. Dorfman, I appreciate your frustration that you're trying to focus on just the SNAD part, but for us, the SNAD pieces and the building are inextricably linked, because anytime you put the built environment in a natural environment, it does have an impact. I hope Camilla is still on and listening. I just want to make a blanket statement for all these properties. The New York City Council passed legislation saying that the goal is to increase the city's tree canopy to 30%. We have a special natural area district with huge trees. A 48-inch tree, 90 feet tall, has a huge canopy that no matter what caliper trees you're putting back in, you cannot replace that canopy. So I suggest that this may be something for the land use committee to think about, or perhaps city planning. The city's goals are at odds with each other. We're allowing people to remove large 48-inch trees. This is not the first 48-inch tree that will be coming down. And that is reducing our tree canopy, and it's being replaced with tiny 3-inch, 6-inch trees that we need to wait another 50, 60 years to get that canopy back. So all of these things affect the stormwater, they affect the natural environment, they affect the temperature, and SNAD just really isn't protecting anything anymore, because all this destruction is being approved by the city council, by city planning. So that's my little rant. I just wanted to get it out there because we have 3 properties where all of this is being allowed to be changed. You know, so I hope the land use committee will take a very strong stance and say no to some of these things. You look at them carefully to make sure that they're meeting the spirit of it and not just the tiny little letter of it. So that's my speech for today. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else in the community that wishes to be heard?
Mr. Mergler,
Yes.
as a community member, I'd like to be heard.
Fine.
I live on 230th Street and Arlington Avenue. This site is very close to my home. It's also been upzoned to an R6A zone during the rezoning process 20 years ago, where the agreement was to downzone all the houses or the properties in the estate area from R1 to from R12 to R11 to make sure that those lots wouldn't be disturbed. This is a site that's within the area of an a highway. And the city, and it's now the city of Yes, if I remember from the presentation at the last meeting, it has to provide housing and facilities for probably another 1 million people certainly within the next 50 years. And I would like to be a part of that as a community to make room for those people to live and to have their children who are maybe not so fortunate to be able to go to our public and private schools, to have a school of little 2 to 3.5-year-olds. And I would like to also say that the houses next door are maybe 4.5 to close to 5 stories. And the attic that's listed on our property that I'm proposing is a true attic. It's just some space for the rooms on the second floor. So, yes, I thank you, the last speaker, for noticing my frustration. But it would be really nice if Mrs. Jesselson took that lot and maybe asked the city to move the telephone pole and the fire hydrant and make a true safe intersection. Because the buses are not always going to be going down there, but I certainly am always going to be walking down there to visit my friends and neighbors in this area.
Okay, so I would like to have a small rejoinder. Okay, just listen, because I too have been living here for a long time. Just a moment. We bought the house in 1980.
Enough, Ms. Jesselson. You're not helping your cause.
All right, I'm
He's
sorry.
not helping his. And
All right,
I'm not helping either of you. So let me move forward.
Okay,
I
so
apologize for being rude.
call me
Ladies
Hal.
and gentlemen, is there anybody else in the community? So let me make 2 points, if I may.
Judy raised her hand, I'm sorry.
Ms. Jesselson, please.
Yeah.
Judy. I don't know what Judy is.
Okay. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, Judy.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Okay, I live down at the bottom of 232nd Street and Palisade Avenue. My question is about the water and the sewage that you say is going to be linked up. As of now, what's been noted before is that there's a tremendous rundown, especially when we've been having big rains. My question is, when your people did the study and planned the sewage drainage, yes, you're going to get hooked up appropriately and the water drainage is going to be taken care of from your property. What study has been done about the adjacent properties and all the other properties that are going to be affected, the park, anything else that's below that particular property, once the surface is affected by what you're going to be doing, and during the time that you're going to be doing the digging, which is probably going to take a good year to take place. Has a study been done about potential damage and how to protect the other adjacent, more western properties that are lower?
Question in terms of, that's a snag question, come on.
You would like me to respond?
I just want to know, yeah, I would. I'm just interested because I see what's happened with all the work on Palisade Avenue, that they said was going to be taken care of and that they were going to have drainage, and we've had flooding and all kinds of stuff that's occurred. So I just want to
Question is
know,
whether or not the excavation for the basement garage and for the construction of the building will create a flooding condition that will adversely impact the neighbors.
well, and the
And your
park.
answer is,
The answer is during construction, the contractors are required to put up construction fences. They're required to put up silt containment fences. They're required to put up hay bales to absorb the silt and the water. During construction, there is a period of time that there may be some heavy rains. Contractors cannot control the weather, nor can any of us. But there are mitigation features that are required that they adhere to during the construction.
How long is the time of the construction proposed? 6 months, 8 months?
Probably between 8 and 12 months is a normal construction process.
And if any damage is going to be done to the park especially, which is so important to the community because of the way the water runoff would happen, if anything happens in that 8 to 12 months, is the construction company responsible? Who's going to fix it? Who's going to take care of it if it's because of this building going up?
I'm not certain how the park would be affected by this.
It's lower all the way down from Independence Avenue, the two parks really, from Independence Avenue down to Palisade Avenue. And as some of the heavy rains have come, there's been undermining of the land. Trees have fallen down, some of which could be dangerous. A couple of times they've fallen across the roads. I could also, I mean, just as an aside, say something happens to that big tree you're talking about, that I don't know what she said, it's an oak tree. Say by cutting half the roots or by damaging half the roots, it falls on her house. That, for argument's sake, who's responsible? What happens if damage is done because of the undermining of the ground? How far down do they study when they said, it sounds like you're just studying the local property, which is, I know where that house is. It's
I think we have your point. I really do.
okay. I'm just, it's a question, not a point. Yeah.
Al?
I'm listening.
You want to add?
I
I have no
don't,
question. I just want to put this on the record. At the last session, the owner of the property cited mental hygiene law, section 41.47, as the reason he could violate the restrictive, the covenant. I took the liberty of reading 41.47, seeing if there's any relationship between that and the Patterson law, of which I know a great deal. And the answer to that question is no. The focus of 41.47 is on adult residents. There's no real discussion of setting up a school. And if the most we can talk about is that if the commissioner decides that there is a need, we have to be contacted first and given the opportunity to respond. And I don't hear that conversation going on.
Anything you want to say in response, Mr. Dolphin?
no.
Does anybody on the committee have any questions?
Is there a lot coverage limit on this lot? On the other one at all?
Not anything that I see has been violated, no. Let me raise with you a couple of questions. I have three concerns here. First one is, I believe that there have not been adequate steps taken to mitigate the damage caused by potential, if not probable, damage to the tree that has the 48-foot canopy. And that is a plain violation of SNAD. Two, There does not appear to be any submission I can see, and if I'm wrong, Mr. Dorfman, you point it out to me, as to how the way that the property will ultimately sit, plus the construction of it, anything has been done to deal with runoff, construction, water runoff, rain runoff, and the like, that can erode the property and that of adjacent neighbors. Erosion is a serious question. It is a SNAD question. There's nothing here that indicates that anything's been done on that issue. That troubles me.
If you look at page CPC 005, it shows silt fencing.
It shows what? I'm sorry?
It shows the construction staging plan where materials will be stored. It shows the location of the silt construction fencing, and there are notes about what needs to be done for this.
Does it say that you have, for example, a dry well to capture the water runoff? Does it say you have anything done that will actually capture it from running off?
The silt fence, if it's constructed property, the water should be contained within the property. If a hole is made in the property and it's lower than the adjacent areas, the water will flow to the lowest area.
And the lowest areas are two. One, the street running down the hill to other people's property, and two, if it's captured, it'll erode your property. You don't have any drainage capacity here.
There's no drainage capacity for a hole. It will seep back into the ground. Water will not go up out of a hole on its own that I know about.
Mr. Goldman.
Hal, the question was asked of you of the flow of water from the site, because you're going to be taking a property that is largely permeable, probably half or 2/3 permeable, and be covering it with a building and some sort of permanent, non-permeable surface in the backyard. Your answers addressed a question that actually wasn't asked about what you'll be doing about silt during construction. The question is, on an ongoing, forever basis, what will happen with the water that will no longer seep into the ground, but due to the non-permeable surfaces, will flow down the hill on the street and flow into neighbor properties?
No, that's not what's going to happen. This property has been designed to have a water retention roof on the back, which captures the water from the main roof as well as that roof itself, so it has controlled release. And then there is a series of either dry wells that are going to be placed in the front of the property with the proper...
You've been asked twice about the dry wells, and this is the first you're mentioning it.
Because the dry wells are part of the Department of Environmental Protection filing, and they're not
Are they
part...
on the plans? Are the dry wells indicated? I asked you about that before.
This plan, the way the plan was submitted to you, actually, there's a detention tank and controlled release to the adjacent sewer. And that is
Where is
how...
it on the plans?
It's on the drainage plan CPC 004.
And where on that page, please?
It says drainage plan, number 1, and in the front of the building, it says new detention tank.
I see that, but that detention tank captures when it comes in one direction, has nothing to do with when it runs down the hill.
The detention tank is fed from the roof and the paved areas of the property.
I'm talking about water coming from from the property itself and from the basement.
What,
Are
one,
you saying to me
you're
that
talking-
that tank will capture the runoff, all of it?
yes, and it will have a controlled release into the sewer.
You have something from an engineer or an expert on water runoff that will say that?
Yes,
You submit that to us?
I can get yes, I'll ask the engineer tomorrow for the packet of drawings that was submitted to the Department of Environmental Protection.
Is there anything, look at your plan, that same page. What happens? I don't understand. Between the proposed house and the Henry Hudson Parkway on plan sheet number 4, there are other houses, are there not?
There's row houses.
Yes,
I
there's,
don't see them on this plan.
again, those houses are not on our property.
There's that. But look how much more theirs goes back further. Those ends and have a backyard.
Now, they're not here.
If you look at the first sheet, existing site plan, it says, 2.5-story buildings that are adjacent. There's 148 feet of property. We're not required to show every neighboring property on. As a matter of fact, city planning only wants to see what's within our property lines, not mine, but the client's property lines.
I understand that, but what I'm trying to make a point to you is there is water runoff because you are in a position rolling down the hill and with an excavation for a garage, and I don't know if you have enough capacity. Look at where it is on sheet number 1. Immediately to the east of the building, you have indicated existing paved areas. It's all paved. How are you gonna be able to handle all that runoff?
I'm not certain what you're asking the question. That's what the detention tank, the roof
That's
of,
the question.
the roof.
Does the detention tank suffice to meet all of the runoff in the absence of the wells that you said you had there, but which are not shown on the plan?
Yes, the detention tank meets the requirements of the rainwater, the stormwater drainage of the building and the areas of the property.
You get some certification of that.
I can provide you, again, I can provide you with the engineer's drawings that was submitted to the Department of Environmental Protection, and I will do that.
Opinion from the engineer who says that.
That's his drawings. He
You
puts his,
pointed out- You get us some statement from the engineer saying that that tank suffices to capture all of the contemplated ordinary runoff.
not ordinary runoff, the storm drainage from the building and the paved areas around the building, yes. A letter
And
from,
he's certified.
I'll get a letter from the engineer that says it meets the requirements of the code, yes.
No, I'm not asking you that. Please don't quibble with me. I want to know if it suffices. I don't give a damn about the code. I'm asking whether as a practical matter it suffices. You don't have wells here. Cheapest thing in the world is a dry well.
The systems are designed to meet the code. They're not designed to meet some
I'm not gonna
arbitrary.
debate it with you. Here is the resolution, all right? If you don't mind, unless some member of the committee objects, I
I'd like to.
Yeah, I am curious to know the status of the DEP review of this
He
drainage
says
plan.
he says he think it'll happen, but it hasn't happened. Am I right? You
It's
think it
in-
will be approved, but it has not yet been approved, is that correct?
It has not yet been approved yet.
Anybody else who has a question?
There's one member from the community, Paula Kaplan.
She lives around the corner.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to emphasize that the sewers on 232nd Street and 231st Street are not adequate to handle rainstorms at present without this development. We've had some very, severe rains recently, and people's basements were flooded, the street was like a river. So that's something that should be taken into account.
Anybody else?
Motion to call the question?
Yes.
No, make-
No, yes, I gotta state the resolution. It was a proposed resolution. If you have any comments, I beg you, let me have them. Motion is to disapprove the application on the following grounds. One, no adequate mitigation measures have been proposed with respect to the protection of the 48-inch caliper, no, it's not caliper, it's canopy.
No, 48 inches is the caliper, it's the
Caliper
diameter
of
of
the
the
trunk.
trunk.
Right. 48-inch caliper tree, adjacent to the property. Two, we have not yet seen and have requested a copy of an engineering report to the effect that the retention tank shown or proposed on page CPC 001 of the submitted plans will suffice to cover and deal with stormwater runoff. And three, while arguably not technically a SNAD issue, there exists of record a restrictive covenant that limits the use of this property to a one-family residence, and this clearly is not such. And it is a useless act and an inappropriate act to proceed further with these premises, given the fact that the courts have sustained the binding effect of that covenant. Is the motion any amendments? Did you get that by any chance? Because I will never be able to repeat it again.
I got it, yeah. Chuck motions to reject the application due to the following, the trees at risk, the lack of the engineering report, the size of storm detention tank not certified to handle the runoff, and the restrictive covenant to one family residence only.
You are my hero.
The detention tank is on page 4, not page 1.
Detention tank on page 4.
Retention.
CPC 004.
Are there any
Because it only.
comments concerning the proposal? I need a second. Do I have a second?
That's a good point, actually.
I have a
Could be
second.
permanent.
Okay. Any comments, any discussion? All those in favor of the resolution, please raise your hand. Contrary minded, abstentions, unanimous. Okay. Now, give me a half a second to find the papers on this one. Greenberg Traurig, you're on. 695 West 246th Street to facilitate a sunroom and a swimming pool in an existing single-family residence is sought by a private applicant. The only question that came up at the last meeting was whether the property owners within 200 feet in any direction of the boundary lines had been notified. The answer was no, and this was an adjournment to afford you the opportunity to give them such notice and for those neighbors to comment. Did you serve the notice? Greenberg? Ms. Carson, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. I had to unmute. I'd forgotten I had muted myself. Good evening, Chair Merdler and members of the committee. Yes, indeed, we did give notice to all neighbors whose properties were partially or wholly within 200 feet of the exterior boundary, the perimeter of our client's property. Those were given by overnight delivery and regular mail. None of them were returned, so we assume that they were received. We had given everyone notice that the board would be continuing its hearing. We thought it would be on the first Monday of the month, and when we learned that it was not that date this month, we sent a second round of notices to everybody to let them know that it would be on the 18th today. So,
Ms. Carson, may I interrupt for a moment?
Of course.
Is there any neighbor present here this evening who wishes to be heard either for or against the application? Hearing none. Go ahead, Ms. Carson.
So I think, we feel that we did receive a few comments in writing from some folks that were neighbors of the Goldbergs. They were supportive, all of them. And other than that, we received one comment from the Delafield Estates to send them a copy of the drawings, and we did that. I spoke to their attorney. He said nothing to me against the application or for it for that matter, but he just wanted to see the drawings. So we believe that we've discharged our obligation to this board in terms of giving notice. We had also understood that you had some questions on possible impacts, and we're prepared to discuss that tonight. But if you don't have further questions on that, that's
On possible what? I'm sorry.
Impact.
possible impacts of the construction.
Oh, on the steep slope of the issue.
Yes,
And
yeah.
would you do that, please?
Yes, and I'm going to try to be brief because it's getting late. We're going to rely principally on the architect on the project, Tom Winter. We have some drawings. Tom, are you able to put them up on the screen?
Yes, sure. Good
If
evening,
you will
everyone.
allow him to share his screen, Tom Winter, and he will walk you through the various measures that have been taken both to design it and to build it in a way that will not have an adverse impact on those around the property.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, great. Yes, good evening, everyone. Tom Winter here. I'm the architect retained for this project, and we put this very brief presentation together. Just as a reminder, some photographs. This is the existing building here. This is the steep slope that we're discussing. More photos down here from the other side. So this is basically the area that would be impacted. Then on the next slide, we have looked at these drawings last time around. We did some improvements. We discussed this with our landscape architect, Alec Gunn, who's, as a matter of fact, also standing by. I'm going to zoom a little bit further into this. So we tightened the construction fence. These are the little squares. And we have a silt fence also along this line to prevent any fines, any silt from running onto this lawn here. We also propose like an additional construction fence here. This is only needed to dig a trench for the drain pipe that will lead into these dry wells down here. So this is only a very short period of time that we have to disturb this area. So we decided to actually fence this off so that during construction of the structure, nobody is even tempted to go here because this is blocked by a construction fence. So these are improvements that we propose. And then in regards to the steep slope impact, so this is the existing condition with the red line basically showing the impact of our structure. This is basically the proposed structure, and you see that this whole pool structure is essentially one big trough that is sitting inside the dirt, and we're very close. We put in this line of bedrock, so we're very close to bedrock. So this is designed to only have vertical loads that are basically carried down vertically here. There is zero impact on this retaining wall or on the steep slope. So this is way out of the influence line of this foundation. And we added also this area that will be disturbed during construction because it's inside the construction fence, which you see here in section. This area has a special treatment, and that was designed by our landscape architect, Alec Gunn. This is a special matting that basically gets put onto the dirt and gets secured with these stakes to prevent any erosion of this area. And then it gets planted, and from what I understand, this is a grass cover that will grow very quickly. If you have any questions as to how this is being built, Alec is standing by, and he can certainly shed some more light on this if needed. And then we have our structural drawings. This is the foundation design, and you see this is all like tied together. This is the left side closer to the steep slope. This is all a very rigid structure which doesn't allow any lateral forces to be put on that steep slope area. So it's basically this detail up here which is relevant, and then this would be the detail next to the building. And to go back to our cross section, so these are basically the two structural details, this and this. So it's all like one element that is properly tied together. So there is no individual walls like putting any pressure on that steep slope. So we considered all that in our foundation design. So this is my brief presentation.
I'd like to ask you a question. During the course of construction, where do you propose to put the trucks and the other equipment? You're going to keep it on site or in the public street?
Yeah, it's a very good question. So let me pull up the construction plan. So here's the construction plan. There's an existing driveway, which is this area here. We have a staging area on the driveway, and then we have a very flat area, very flat grass area, which we also utilize as a staging area. So the construction area is here. So there will be excavation. There will be containers waiting here, and there will be a mini excavator that basically excavates dirt from here, and there's enough room to get through with that mini excavator to not impact any of these critical root zones. This is all properly fenced off by the construction fence, and this will be deposited here in containers if it's going to be discarded. And topsoil that we will reuse or fill that we will require will be stockpiled on the property as well. So there's zero impact to any public roadways. So everything is happening on the site.
And I'd also like to say that we, our client owns the property across the street here, so they are on both sides.
I have one last recommendation to you, Ms. Carson. The recommendation only. People who drive construction equipment are not necessarily among those who are most concerned with noise and like matter, hours of operation, etc. It has been our experience that if you and those who represent developers and the like place a clause in the contract that requires them to abide by the hours of working, to abide by keeping the equipment off the street and the like. It has a greater influence on them because their lawyers of the construction companies are aware of that and don't feel like getting hit with a problem. But it's a recommendation that if you can, would you think about putting some appropriate clause in your contract with the vendors to help deal with the issues of noise and blocking the streets and the like, all right?
While I won't be the lawyer who does those contracts, my client is on the call. He's listening to what you have to say, and he and I will discuss how we're going to make sure that gets implemented when he does come.
Fair.
Yes, and if I may chime in, so we're, as architects, we will be also in touch with the general contractors, and I think it's a very good recommendation, and we will certainly put that into the contracts with the general contractor and the subcontractors. I think it's a good, very good recommendation.
I have no doubt that Mr. Goldberg will do those kinds of things. I just wanted to make the recommendation because it has worked for us in this community, right?
Well, we
thank you. Is there anybody who has any question on the committee? Let's unshare the screen. Is there anyone in the community who has any concerns? Comments? Hearing none. Motion. Moved, approved.
Second.
Make a motion, we approve this.
Good. Second. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
members
for-
of the committee
thank
and
you
Mr.
for
Chair.
a truly
Thank you.
excellent presentation, Ms. Costa. All right, next item on the agenda. Landmarks Preservation Commission, calendar number 24-00953, 331 West 250th Street. Same thing. What's this? There's no.
It's a new thing,
No, it's new.
brand new,
Same building.
No, it's different.
brand new.
It's 250th, the other one.
Oh, yes,
46.
okay. Is the applicant present or representative?
I am. My name is Rebecca Levin, and I'm here to discuss this project.
Yeah, this is a last-minute application. Have any of you had an opportunity to read the application? And do you have any questions concerning it?
Excuse me, Karen?
Who is the applicant?
Maybe.
Yeah, who's the owner?
That's on Omar's. I don't have one. I never had one.
Who is the owner?
You take that one.
Hello?
So I'm here on
Rebecca.
behalf of the owner. My name is
I
Rebecca.
understand. I'm trying to place who and where this is.
So this is for a homeowner named Mark Hoffman. The job site address is 331 West 150th Street in the Fieldston Historic District.
Okay.
It's not 150th, right?
Too close.
No, I thought she said one.
I'm sorry,
Ask
250th.
you a question.
So
During the
sorry.
course of this work, do you intend to repaint any or all of the premises?
No, so this application is strictly for the doors at the sunroom, which is to the left of the house if you're looking directly at the house. And just to make it,
There's no painting or changing the color. Frankly, personally, I find that to be a troublesome question to ask anyone, but it is required by LPC. So you have nothing on that.
so it's not, so the application is not for repainting per se, it's for replacing of those doors. And this is,
When was this building constructed?
I could bring that up.
When was this building constructed?
In 1918,
1980?
1918.
All right,
If you'd
that
like,
may
I can
explain
walk you
the
through the
doors,
drawing.
et cetera. Not good. Is there anybody on the committee who has any questions? Is there anyone in the community who wishes to be heard? On the motion to approve, second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Abstentions? Unanimous? Thank you.
Great, thank you so much.
Done. It'll be before the board at the next meeting.
Thank you for waiting.
No
All right,
problem.
Marty,
It was
it's your
interesting.
it's your monthly moment. Report of the subcommittee working on the Riverdale construction.
The working group.
The working group.
The working-
Subcommittee creates other problems.
As I noted at our, at the, full board meeting, the project's moving forward. They, hope to be completed by the end of the year. There was not a slowdown, but there was a problem they were having with, the window of construction happening outside of state, and they were backed up somehow. But it was finally cleared, and, the last report I have is windows are going in, and things are moving forward. Relationship between the two buildings, that and the co-op next door, have, had its bumps and whatever, but they've had an ongoing good relationship. And, so, my only hope is that somehow the good relationship we've finally established with STAG will continue into their next project, and I'm fearful that might not be the case, but I'm hoping the goodwill will last.
And now talk to us about the Waldo Avenue Stag project.
Moment. What happened?
I missed your, comment, Marty.
So,
What was
he
your-
only hopes that the good relationship that worked well here carries into the Waldo Avenue project.
Okay, I don't.
And as I noted in the, at the community board meeting, I have done partially, several months ago, a report on how this relationship has worked, and the things that we as the community members have brought to the attention of STAG that they would not have considered. And even though they didn't agree with us all the time, a lot of things were changed because you brought it to their attention. Yeah, the relationship. As far as, the dormitory is concerned on Waldo, I know as much as everyone else in the room knows.
So
Which
let me-
at this point is unfortunate, but I'll, the chairman.
Let me tell you what, I have been in touch with Jay Martino, who is the manager of the project on Riverdale Avenue, and who originally had not intended to become involved with Waldo. I've asked him specifically to have either him or Mark Stagg directly talk to us as to where they're going. I have not emerged from discussion with the city at all as far as of last week, I believe, the issue as to whether or not they're going to have, they have requested families in that building, migrant families. That is what they have sought. That it has neither been approved nor rejected as of at least last week. And they are trying to see where they can go. They are calling me. Martino called me last week and told me this is where they are now. I will talk to him again on a weekly basis to find out where they're heading. Doesn't mean that we think that's a great idea, although personally I do. But it means specifically that they are gonna give us information before they take any definitive steps, which is about all you can ask for at this. Anybody? I understand that there are some people in the Waldo Avenue building have a concern about use of migrant family shelter type of thing here. I also understand that there are some people who have a specific concern as to if, as and when the migrant families move out, will this then become a homeless shelter or the like. I have put that question specifically more than once to Mr. Martino, and at this point, he said, we haven't even thought about step number 2 before we find out whether step number 1 is viable. His concern seems to be, and this really is troublesome to me, his concern seems to be that the cost of renovating the existing dormitory building would produce a building that is not financially sustainable. He should have known that when he made the bid he did to Manhattan College to buy the building. And that's a point I've made to them. But I want to see where this thing goes. So far, they have been very cooperative in having reported back to the board where they're heading, and I will stay after them, or Marty will, and we'll play tag team with them on until we get something to do. If they move in any direction, we will have a working group again working on this. Anything? Any messages you want to convey?
I'm not quite sure I understand as far as they, not having, be approved to be a migrant building. Are they seeking to have a shelter?
No. They are seeking.
Affordable housing?
No. Wait, put affordable housing aside for a moment, okay? They are seeking a contract with the city of New York that they would house migrant families in the apartments. Families are all over the place. They came migrant from, whether they be Puerto Rico, or they be the Caribbean, or they be Ukraine, all right? That's what they're seeking to do. They have not been able to get that kind of a commitment from the city of New York yet. Frankly, this area, namely the migrant family shelter area, like the homeless shelter area, is not one in which the city of New York has distinguished itself in dealing with the problem. However, unlike the homeless shelter people, where there is no indication that I have seen of a rightful, sound, honest program, that does not seem to be the problem with those who are handling the migrant shelter issue.
I have no concern about the migrant families being in it.
You have the concern about the homeless at the second step.
Where if Mayor Adams, decrees that in 60 days they have to get out, then it's, for the community, it's much more trouble.
You were saying not a shelter, though. You were saying permanent housing, right?
Let me be direct.
Housing.
Pardon me?
Transitional housing.
No, it's not contemplated that. It's contemplated for being homes for the families.
Permanent?
Yeah.
Permanent
That's what
homes?
he said.
Except for what the mayor did say about 60 days reapplying, which just throws a wrench into the works. But, I mean, there's a lot of stuff we have to wait to see. I mean, originally they were talking about affordable housing, and then the possibility of migrant families, and Stagg's got issues because, well, it was a dormitory, which means there's probably 2 bedrooms that may or may not have had a bathroom in the suite, and probably didn't have a kitchen. So that just...
That's construction. Let me
Yeah,
just deal with
yeah,
it. Let me deal with this now, deal with the affordable in a minute. With respect to the migrant shelter issue, until that becomes clear as to what the hell they can do, we're in the same position they're in. With respect to affordable housing, I will tell you that I had a direct conversation with the Commissioner of HPD on a concern of mine, which some share and others do not in this board. That is the following. I resent the idea that the people of the city of New York are not put in a position where it is clear what is and what is not affordable. Yes, we have bans. Yes, there are numbers, but the flexibility is something that needs to be addressed, because people have a right to know what's going here. Am I eligible to apply or not eligible to apply? Is it discretionary? Apartment 3 is a band 1, and apartment 4 is a band 2, and how and why? I will tell you, to my absolute pleasant surprise, Adolfo Carrion entirely focused on that issue. And I must congratulate him. I was truly surprised. He says that is something we're trying to figure out how to do it, be consistent with the fact that the feds are the people who set up the basic route, and that we can't be inconsistent with theirs. He said it's something we're focused on, and we're trying to do it. And I believe him.
Definite maybe.
Indefinite maybe.
Tell you.
Get back to you on that.
It is at this point something that all we can do is watch, hope for the good faith they've shown on Riverdale Avenue, and hope for the best. Ted, do you have anything to add?
No.
The shortest piece tonight.
Thank you. Ted, I hope you're well.
Thank you.
Is there any new business?
I want to just bring up something in my committee, which I think that land use should be aware of. I'm having a meeting on the 24th of October regarding school construction authority coming in and speaking about a school on a primary school of 547 seats on the location of Van Cortlandt Motel.
Wow.
So I just wanted to throw it out there. I know that everyone has gotten my agenda. However, time around, this is the second school that's being proposed in our district. And with the first one, there were mistakes that I don't want to make. So I just want everyone to know about it. I think land use people should be interested in it. You can go on Zoom, you can ask questions of SCA. It's going to be the same thing as before as far as just site selection. They don't come with a lot of answers. I know I remember you saying, if you had known what you were voting for, you probably wouldn't have voted on the site selection. But I only had about 4 people or 5 people at the visitation site, and I'd like to be able to have more people with questions. If you can't make it, get in touch the 24th at 7:30. I'll be here in the office, and it's going to be on Zoom. So just to be informed about it, because eventually the board is going to have to vote for it. And it's the only time that people can ask questions, being that SCA will be there, and they don't come that often, nor are they very outgoing and.
Right. I will tell you why they are here. I will tell you that the assembly member, Jeffrey Denowitz, was really ticked off at their failure to be responsive. Made that very clear to them, that he would address that if they didn't do it right.
That they weren't responsive about visitation.
So.
And we're still not clear, are we, on visitation?
No, they aren't anywhere yet. I mean, the housing is proposed, and the schools, they're not coming forward with anything new. We had questions at my meeting on June 27th. We've never got any answers. They just, are not cooperative at all.
Isn't the Van Cortlandt Motel a migrant shelter now?
It is at this present time.
But they're planning on.
Well, this school is supposed to be built by 2028. And I guess that they have to get them out before they get involved, and the building is infested, and there has to be remediation and all kinds of things before they can even tear it down. There's a lot going on there, and it's going to take all that time to figure it out.
It might be useful if we could get square footage on the Van Cortlandt site compared to the visitation site.
It's smaller.
It's smaller? I didn't think you could make it any smaller.
No, the school itself is going to be roughly about 32 hundred, square feet.
Okay.
I don't know how big that is, I don't have that imagination. But, I think that the other one was 50?
With half an acre.
Half an acre, yeah.
Okay,
So that we know,
okay, that's helpful, thank you.
yeah.
Do you have any kind of renderings or any kind of,
We did get something, I plan to have it on at the meeting.
okay.
I mean, I could send you a
Would
copy.
you?
Could you
Yeah,
send it
sure.
before?
It shows it, it's really a north-south piece of property. It has one little tail, that goes west, but, I don't know what they're gonna do with that.
So it's mostly Broadway frontage?
It's all, yeah, mostly Broadway.
Okay, actually,
Yeah.
Broadway.
But they're tearing it down.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course.
yeah.
So let me give you, thank you very much. Let me give you one last comment. Some early date, we're going to get the zoning text change in the city of Yes. Based on what I have seen so far and heard so far, speaking solely for myself, I am troubled. I am troubled because it is based on a premise that I don't share, but you may. And that is, I have in my backyard a certain amount of space. Third of an acre of a piece of property that is taken up 2/3 by my house, but I have a little piece of green in the back. I can put up additional housing provided it is affordable. Density on utilization of land is a negative. They go up, it doesn't have as deleterious an effect as if they take over the entire piece of land. Number one. Number two, we have a phenomenon that has developed. The New York Times wrote a detailed piece about it about 3 weeks ago, called industrial housing. That is where various syndicates buy up single-family home areas and then turn them into mass housing projects. I think it is an essential part of every city, whether it is people who can afford it or people who have pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and hope to be able to afford it, to have a home of their own. And it seems to me that this is heading towards ending any single-family homes. Now, I told you this because I wanted to make a disclosure to you before this reaches the committee, that I have that view, and so you all know it, and so nobody can say, I hid it from you or concealed it. It troubles me no end. It really does. I've seen too many areas of this city that have been turned bad for that kind of a reason. Why? They're just crowded one after another. One of the things that people admire about the city of Paris is it looks grand. The streets look grand. They look beautiful. That's because they're wide. They have open area space where there is light, there is air, and there are people. We have side yards and front yards and backyards required under the zoning resolution in order to provide light and air and impact. Why you have to put it in the backyard, maybe it's not as bad going up. Housing shortage isn't going to be met entirely by that kind of shtick. What is going to be done and has got to be done is we need to build housing, not talk about it. We have loads of it. I'll give you one area that you can build 500 more units tomorrow morning. You have the abandoned New York State Hospital on the Hudson River Parkway, where Metrotech took one corner of it for a development. The rest is still there. There are other like areas all over town. And if we re-examine, and forgive me for the soapbox, but I will tell you, there are other areas where we can build housing aplenty. And we can talk about and think about, there's a fact developed in Vancouver. They can build and have been building 32-story buildings, the envelope, not the interior portion, in less than 3 months. Why can't we start focusing on that kind of stuff? You can build housing fit for people and fit for living. This is no way. That's my view. Having said that, I have therefore asked that we're gonna put together a task force. I've asked somebody who I think has a different view from mine, Margaret Della, to join that committee, just to make sure my view is not the only view that is expressed. I'm gonna talk to some of you individually and see if we can put together a rest. This is a critical thing, because North Riverdale is a sensitive area that could fall. No question about it. Kingsbridge is an area that's finally pulling itself up by the bootstraps. It can fall back to where it was. I lived there. I know. There are other areas like that within this community board district, and we, in my view, have a duty to try and protect them. End of speech.
When do you expect that this is going to come before us?
I thought it was gonna be here this week, so it's any day. They have a symposium on it. I couldn't get out of Israel in time to watch it. So that's coming any day, I think.
We have the carbon neutrality thing.
Remember ZQA from years ago?
Same
This is
thing.
like ZQA on steroids.
Rosemary and I Zoom attended a session on, City of Yes, which may be the symposium you're talking about, was not very, uplifting from our point of view. There are 9 areas in the city who they deem do not have a sufficient number of, high-density housing that should have it, and obviously Riverdale is one of those 9 areas. So we can plan or expect that they'll be making an effort to try and change what we consider 1- and 2-family homes into properties on which they can build high-density housing.
So anybody who is interested in really working on one of those task forces, please let me know, okay? I'm looking especially for people who think I'm full of it, okay?
Oh, we all do.
But at least I know it. Thank you. On a motion to adjourn, please.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?